Will PlayStation 5 Pro be able to deliver double the performance in PlayStation 5 games? Let's look into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I would like to talk about PlayStation 5 Pro. Now there's a ton of leaks and rumors suggesting that PlayStation 5 Pro may be twice as powerful as a PlayStation 5, regular PlayStation 5. Now these are still rumors, but I think it's possible, at least on the GPU side of things, right? I mean, it may be, twice as capable when it comes to the GPU chip. But the question that I see a lot on social media is, will PlayStation 5 Pro offer double the performance? And that's actually not that simple, right? Because, double the teraflops doesn't translate necessarily to double the frames, right? And when it comes to performance, well, when I hear performance, I think frames, right? I mean, 30 over 60, that's the double the performance, right? Like one game is 30, the other one is 60, that's double the performance, double the frames. And, there's no doubt in my mind that PlayStation 5 Pro in many games will offer better performance too, right? But I don't necessarily think we should expect double the performance, right? Because, when it comes to performance, well, you have to factor other things too, like CPU performance, like memory performance, and not amount of memory, but memory bandwidth, how fast you can move the data from one part of the system to the other, right? It's more complicated than that, because really, when it comes to a lot of games, a lot of times these games are CPU limited. A good example would be Gotham Knights. That game is still 30 frames per second on consoles, and it wasn't necessarily greatly optimized on PC for a while too. Now it's better, but you still need a pretty decent CPU to run Gotham Knights in 60 frames per second, right? So I don't think that, for example, PlayStation 5 Pro would make or would allow developers to offer like a 60 frames per second performance mode in that particular game, right? Because, it's limited. I mean, that game at launch was dropping below 30 frames per second a lot of times, right? And that was mainly CPU related, really, right? Open world, I don't know, maybe it's a poor optimization this on the, developer side, could be, right? But still, CPU was the limiting factor, right? And, that's the thing, right? I mean, PlayStation 5 Pro may offer, double the GPU power, twice as many teraflops, over what PlayStation 5 offer, like it may be a 20 teraflop machine, but that doesn't translate to better performance. What it can do, although, when it comes to like GPU, you will probably get way more games offering much better resolutions, right? So and that's why I say that PlayStation 5 Pro will be very similar in its concept to PlayStation 4 Pro, right? It was just PlayStation 4 Pro for the most part offered higher res versions of the same games. Yes, there were games that would offer you performance modes, and some of them would actually run pretty well, or close to 60. But these were titles that were already close to offering these kind of frames. So, for example, PlayStation 4 Pro has got like CPU running at I think like 20 or 30% faster clock speeds. So I think it's going to be similar in terms of PlayStation 5 Pro. So for example, you've got Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. I think it's close to 60, but let's focus on Final Fantasy 16, for example. So, that game in performance mode on PlayStation 5 not only runs at much lower resolution than the quality mode, but also it doesn't offer you locked 60 frames per second. The game runs like anything between like 45 to 60 frames per second. So on PlayStation 5 Pro, hopefully with a patch or maybe even without it, if the game is using dynamic resolution scaling, so maybe even there won't be any need for a patch, who knows. But so PlayStation 5 Pro potentially could offer locked 60 frames per second or very close to 60 and high resolution. So you would get much better experience for sure. So, I'm not trying to tell you that PlayStation 5 Pro will not be worth its money, right? It's just the question is, what do you expect from that console? If you expect every single game to run at double frames, forget it. You're not going to get it, right? It's all about setting your expectations right, because when it comes to, there's two limiting factors to better frames when it comes to that new console. Potentially because we still haven't seen the official specs yet, but we're just going off of leaks. But the increase in memory bandwidth and the CPU speed is not going to be enough to offer double the frames in games, right? Not in games that are limited on the CPU side of things, right? Like, games games with open world, for example, or games that offer, high physics, right? Like high quality physics and that kind of stuff, right? So these games don't expect, is there any like a big game, like, Gotham Knights is one example, but is there any other that right now that is having issues with that? I can't think of. I could go with Starfield, for example, right? But Starfield is not on PlayStation. But it's another example where, I guess. But at the same time, Starfield, it was proven that Starfield does run at 60 at some points, even on consoles. There were some internal tests, so let's forget about Starfield. But any game that is locked to 30 and don't offer any other modes, Dragon's Dogma sounds like it's going to be one of these games that even on PlayStation 5 Pro won't be offering 60 by the looks of it. Another one is GTA 6, right? It's still pure speculation, but if that game, and it sounds like it's going to be very big and very intensive, it's probably going to be very CPU taxing as well. So GTA 6 may not necessarily offer you a 60 frames per second performance mode, even on PlayStation 5 Pro, because CPU will not be capable, will not be capable enough to double the frames, right? Yes, you will probably get, you will, most likely get, better graphics in or at least better resolution and stuff, but don't expect a game that is locked to 30 frames per second to all of a sudden run at 60 on PlayStation 5 Pro. That's not going to happen because PlayStation 5 Pro is more about more GPU power rather than CPU power, right? And that's it, right? So, but still, guys, like I said, I don't think it's a big problem anyway, because, these days, most games offer 60 frames per second modes anyway. There's games that offer performance modes, but they are not locked 60. So these games will actually be, pretty much locked or very close to it. So you are still getting much better experience, and also any performance mode you are getting right now in games on PlayStation 5 that offer, for example, much lower resolution and they just don't look good. So that's why a lot of people just go with quality modes in these games, because they offer much better graphics. But with PlayStation 5 Pro, for example, you will be able to enjoy both good performance at 60 or close and nice and crisp graphics, because the GPU on PlayStation 5 Pro will be probably more than capable of delivering, at least, I don't know, 50, 60, 70%, more, pixels. I don't necessarily say that you will get a better graphics, but you may, who knows. But I think that would require a patch from developers, unless unless we're talking about games that will release after PlayStation 5 Pro release, right? So there's a lot of good stuff that PlayStation 5 Pro will bring. So I mean, and I guess it all depends on you. I mean, it will all depend on how developers will use that extra performance or power. How much will it cost? And so these are the kind of questions we still don't know. But generally speaking, when it comes to PlayStation 5 Pro, expect kind of a PlayStation 4 Pro-like product. This year. So I'm not talking about performance, but the concept, right? So it's going to be, pretty much just like you will get a prettier versions and more stable versions of PlayStation 5 games on PlayStation 5 Pro. And if that's enough for you, then that's fine. But really, if you are really into performance per se, well, you better get yourself, a PC, right? I'm not saying that you should leave PlayStation or Xbox or consoles alone. I still play on consoles, but still, when it comes to these 30 frames per second games, I just play them on PC, right? And, Starfield, for example, I played like 95% of that game on PC. I mean, I did play it a little bit on console just to, give it a try and, get a sense of it, how it does it feel on consoles. But 30 is 30, right? So if you are after performance, it's PC is the way, right? And I don't think PlayStation 5 Pro will change much in that respect. And sounds like Digital Foundry is talking about it too, right? I mean, it's a common knowledge based on we are obviously basing it on rumors still when it comes to specs, but it is what it is. So guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.